I'm going to introduce the gold chair, Blaise Edgar, to introduce this session. Blaise has been tremendous over the last few years supporting the safety and business improvement goal. So this goal is all about safety, being safe, and being smart. So the business improvement is all to do with being smart. So you'll see some of the stuff that we're doing is helping to do that. But safety is very much on top of the heap here. So you'll see in a second when I put the agenda up after Blaise has had a couple of words of introduction. We've got three things to look at. One is what we're doing on safety. I'm having a little bit of help from Marcus Dreyer from UGI on that. We're then having the quick summary of the Global Statistical Review, which is something we put together every year with Argus. This year we have 140 countries being covered. And that was published last week. It was issued to all our members through a PDF link. So if you haven't got it, then please come and talk to one of us about that, because that should have gone out this last few days. And then finally, we're going to have our diversity activities covered by Alison and two members of the Youth Council. So that's basically what we've got in store for you before lunch. So we'll get going now. So I'm going to ask Blaise Edgar to just say a few words of introduction, Blaise.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. Just a few words about safety. I would like to highlight that we all have the ultimate goal of continuously improving safety standards and strengthening the safety culture in the industry to prevent serious accidents from occurring and thus to protect the reputation of the industry. Concerning diversity, our ambition is to have more young people in the industry and to increase their involvement in the activities of the association. If many young people are attracted to the industry, this means for me that the industry is perceived as a responsible industry and a first choice employer. So let's work together in order to achieve our objective. Thank you very much. I hand over to David.
Thank you, Blaise. So this is the agenda in a bit of detail. We're running a little bit behind, so we'll try and catch up. So the first thing I want to do is cover what we call the core safety group activities. Now, we've got a whole bunch of working groups represented by our membership within the World Liquid Gas Association. And the core safety group is basically a bunch of LPG safety champions who meet every month. We have two meetings, one for the East Zone, which covers New Zealand, as far as New Zealand. We kick that off very early in the morning, Central European time. And then we have another meeting later on that day covering Europe and Africa and the US and South America. So these meetings are held generally the second Tuesday of the month. And my first plea is that if you're not aware of them, is there anybody aware of these meetings in the room? I know Marcus is, because I'm going to ask him to come up in a minute. Rashid is. So these, just bear in mind and maybe go home and talk to your HSE director to see whether he would be interested to join these calls, because what we do, we share information. There's no secrets in safety. So we share information about campaigns, about initiatives, and we share information about incidents. And that's a really interesting part of what we do. Some of the incidents that we've seen recently have been horrific. And I was talking to Tucker last night, and he said to me, can you tell me a little bit more about what's happening with the Mexican incident that happened 2 weeks ago? And we did, in fact, raise that with the group. We reached out to one of our members in Mexico who gave us a little bit of feedback. But this is all that we've got basically online at the moment. There's a bit of an embargo on the causes of it. Because there is litigation going on, a lot of people were killed in this incident. Basically what happened was a bulk road tanker overturned in Mexico City, and there was a catastrophic release of LPG, and there was a ignition, a massive fire, and something like 20 vehicles were consumed by that, including their occupants. So it's a horrible, horrible story. All the information we've got out of this so far is that it was caused probably by driver error, speeding, road condition was another suggested reason for it. And the reason that there were so many fatalities was it was just a very, very congested space. It all happened. So we're still getting more information about that. I don't think Tucker's in the room. If he was, I'm sure he'd be asking a question about it now. But that's where we are with this one. But it reminded me in 2020, and not dissimilar. In fact, we've had 2 or 3 of these incidents with road tankers. And this is an incident that happened in China in 2020. I say similar because it's the same sort of vehicle. It was a bulk tanker, about 20 tons of LPG. The guy was coming off the freeway down onto a large roundabout, and we saw CCTV footage of what actually happened. And he went round the roundabout too fast. There was a rollover, and the tanker collided with the impact barrier, which went around the roundabout. And there just happened to be a gap in the impact barrier where he hit it. And it was like a tin opener. The corner of the barrier sliced right through the tanker. And there was a catastrophic release. And this is the impact. This is 20 tons of LPG. So, you know, we talk about how good this product is of ours and how powerful it is, and how many families cook with it with a 3-kilogram cylinder over a week. But this is the other side of the coin. This is the fact that we've got a very, very dangerous product if it's not handled properly. So during our safety group meetings, we have discussions about incidents like this. And one incident that came up about 3 or 4 weeks ago did not happily end up like this. And this is it. This is in Canada. This is an export. Rob will tell me it's Ridley Island, I think it is. It's in Canada. It's exporting LPG to Asia. And they had a catastrophic release, uncontrolled release of LPG. And this is an interesting photo because we don't often see pictures like this. What happened here was the wind dissipated the product and there was no ignition. And the management were then asked to give a report on what had happened. And reading the report, it was a bit ho-hum. It was a bit, well, yeah, we had a bit of an incident. It was all under control, and it was all within a few hours. It was all back to normal. Checked everything. All the protocol that we had was applied, and we move on. But they dodged a massive bullet here because if that had gone up in smoke, you know, they would have had that sort of picture instead of that. The report also said that the workers on the island could not get off because of the cloud. So it really does make you a little bit concerned about the impact that would have had we had that incident with ignition and fire. So just a couple of pictures I put in there last night in case Tucker was going to be in the room, but he's not, but I'll talk to him afterwards. But moving on now to the core safety group activities. And I'm going to ask Marcus to come up now and just say a couple of words about this. We've only got a couple of slides on it, but the meetings I said are held every month. Try and do that on the second Tuesday to get some sort of routine. As a result of incidents like the ones you've seen, we have this big interrogation. We have often 20 people on the call. putting ideas, putting suggestions as to what might have happened and what we could have done to avoid it happening again in the future. So Marcus, come on up, and Marcus is pretty well on these group calls every month, and sure enough, Big Rolster is. So I thought it would be better if somebody who's on the call can talk about what we're doing rather than me.
Thank you, David. I think since our industry exists, actually everybody talks about safety, and everybody says safety is our highest value and safety is above everything. And I think there is not a single company in the room that would not have safety as part of their values or mission, vision statements, whatever. But sometimes it's more on paper than it's happening in real life. I don't know exactly when it was, but I think it was in 2018 at the conference in Amsterdam, if I get this right. There was a safety power play. That was 2019. It was there was this little agenda item called safety power play. I went there and I was surprised, negatively surprised, because in that safety power play, I think there were 5 people. One of them was David, one of them was I, and 3 others who I don't remember who it was. And I said, come on, that can't be true. Everybody talks about safety and says it's up there. It's the high thing we have in our industry. And then there are only 3 or 5 people coming to the power play. And then I said something, I don't know if I can say it. I said, we have to make safety sexy again, or more sexy. Because safety, back then, it looked like everybody was sitting in their own room, in their own chamber. Some safety nerds, not well connected with other parts of their organization. But I think everybody understands that safety is not a discipline for itself. It's a bridging discipline that bridges every function of the organization. And I think back then we were still a little bit in this situation that the safety nerds sat in their little chambers doing some stuff on safety and talking about within themselves, within their groups, but did not really share all the issues they are facing, all the bad stuff, all the good stuff that is happening in the safety space. And I had a conversation with David, and we said we have to set this up slightly differently. And why don't we establish a group of safety experts coming from all the distributors, from all the suppliers, from all participants in our and from all the members in our industry. And this is what happened. And it started small, and now it has become a really big thing. And David said in the beginning, there was one meeting. It was around lunchtime, European time. Now there are so many people on the call, this monthly call, that it's even worth having 2 meetings, one in the morning of that second Tuesday in the week, in the month, and one in the afternoon. And in every group, there are 10, 15, 20 people. It goes up and down a little bit based on availability, but these are really absolutely valuable conversations that are taking place there. And as David mentioned before, there are no secrets in safety. So we are not discussing any commercial topics or any business sensitive topics there. We just talk about safety initiatives, accidents that are happening, initiatives that we are taking, things that we can do before accidents happen, most importantly. And we're just fostering this exchange of these experts. So there's always good conversations. People are bringing in their latest developments, their latest initiatives, their latest accidents, which they're having. We are discussing them. We are trying to find solutions. But what is also very interesting and very nice is the effect that people are not talking only in these 1-hour meetings. It's all these bilateral meetings and conversations that happen after or in between these meetings. So I can only talk for myself and for colleagues from my company. We have built connections with safety folks from competitors, safety folks from different contributors to the industry, and we engage from time to time, have conversations on what they see, where the journey goes. So these are absolutely valuable conversations. And we are one of our mottos is keep it simple. Safety is not rocket science. The simpler you can keep it, the more effective, and the more efficient, the more effective it is. And this is how we drive our conversations. And it's what we would do is when somebody reports an incident, we have a conversation, and then we form these groups who would find solutions. And this is how we produce our guidance and our safety bulletins, our safety notes, and there were a couple of which we pushed out in the past 2-3 years. It's about cylinder valve removal. I remember there was an incident when somebody gets severely hurt in the removal of a cylinder valve. That was during the inspection process. We had a broad conversation in the group. There were suppliers, and the group has also equipment manufacturers participating. So they came up with their ideas, what we could do differently, or how these processes can be done in more safe manners. More advanced, if I can say it like that, companies talked about their experience, talked about their processes, what they do to prevent from accidents in exactly that particular working step. Interesting for the ones who are not on that stage yet. And yeah, you can go through. It's a reading exercise. The last one we just did this year was one on distracted driving. This is one that I brought in because in one of my group's companies, we have a huge initiative on distracted driving. So we would meet with all the drivers that we catch driving distractedly through DriveCam systems like Aurelio mentioned this morning. So we see what the drivers do when they are working, and then we invite these drivers to conversations with very senior management. And it's not to punish them, but to have conversations with them and educate them on their driving skills, on their driving behavior. And that triggered a really good conversation because all the distributors are facing the same issue. So we came up with this safety note and the safety bulletin, which we just distributed, and it gives some good ideas and recommendations what you can do to improve safety in that space. And that's it. It's very simple. We are bringing people together from across the industry. I can only encourage everybody here in the room to send your colleagues, and so the more people we get into these meetings, the more, the safer our industry will be eventually.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thank you, Marcus. And I put this back up. You probably saw this before the coffee break. Michael showed this one. This is the latest guide we have. We have a whole suite of good industry practice guides on our website, covering all sorts of topics. And we've been developing these over the last 15 years. And this is the latest one that we produced. And it's pretty well a toolbox for brand new markets. We thought it was quite appropriate with all the narrative going on at the moment about developing LPG demand in Africa for cooking. So many of the African countries who have very, very little LPG demand could take a document like this, which talks about the why, the what, and the how, I think is the best way to describe it. So, why should we switch from coal or charcoal to LPG? So there's a couple of chapters in there with some pretty compelling reasons why this LPG proposition should be applied in these countries. And then the what is the four under targeting new LPG markets. These four headings there, we've interrogated those so that you can basically analyze what needs to be done for policy reform, developing the infrastructure for new markets, and how can we look at this whole question of affordability. These are people that don't earn very much money and currently often don't pay for their fuel. They go out every morning and chop the trees down, and it costs them nothing. And then finally, looking at the very important market intelligence that needs to be done before and after we run the initial pilot. And then the suggested plan of action. So this is all in this document. It's about 70 pages. I did a word count. It mentions safety 130 times. So this is one of the reasons why it's gone into our sphere of activity here. Because, if you're looking at developing new markets, you must appreciate that the people, the consumers, the customer, has no idea at all about what LPG is. They're very used to using traditional fuels, coal, charcoal, wood, animal manure, but LPG is it's a completely foreign energy. You can't see it, you can't touch it. So there has to be a lot of education and training, and there's also material at the back of this document looking at the properties and characteristics of LPG as well. So it's quite an interesting toolbox for new markets, but also nascent markets where LPG demand is still relatively low. So that's just one of the things that we do in terms of, if we step back from what the safety and business improvement goal does, it actually accumulates knowledge which we make available, not just through the guides, but also we run training programs, we run workshops and so forth. And earlier this year, I was in Sri Lanka. We ran a couple of workshops in Sri Lanka. And I want to bring, we have representatives from Litro over there. And I did have a quick word before the coffee break, because what I think our association needs to know is, what do we need to do better in terms of providing information, providing knowledge, providing materials to make you safer. And I thought, well, the Sri Lankan market's an interesting market because it's still growing, very much so. But I would say, you tell me, 30% of the population still burning traditional fuels, I guess. So what is it, can I bring you in, Jai? What is it that we can do better to help companies like you in countries where LPG demand is still growing relatively fast?
Thank you very much, David. Actually, we are from Sri Lanka. Now, talking about the total LPG demand of the country is somewhere around 500,000 metric tons. So there are a lot of initiatives are being placed in order to prevent accidents when we talk about the safety. Actually, we will have to thank you a lot regarding, we had one incident in 2021, we faced a crisis situation. So we continuously contacted you to get support, and we sorted it out. From there, what we developed is the government got involved in developing a lot of policies and regulations. Now we have an institution called as Sri Lanka Standard Institution. So that is the place where they develop standards. So from your side, what we expect is we need to have expert support because we need to have practical policies and procedures. So there are a lot of discussions happening there. So we need to have very good support from you to develop those standards. In addition to that, when we talk about the knowledge improvements, so there are a lot of activities happening. So from there also, we need to get assistance from you to enhance the knowledge of our end users. So yeah.
Thank you. So with the first point, it's a really interesting one because we discussed it in a bit more depth before coffee. And Litro gas, the forerunner of Litro gas was Shell gas. And before that, it was Colombo gas. So Colombo gas in 1995, I think it was, sold the business to Shell. Now, when Shell went into a country, and the people in the room who worked for Shell, they will have a bar for safety extremely high. So there's a lot of pushing of standards up to make sure that Shell could operate safely in Sri Lanka after 1995. Shell subsequently withdrew, and now Litro gas is running the business. They have kept those standards, but the country has lagged behind. I think this is the message that I was getting this morning, so that the standards that exist at the moment in Sri Lanka are below those that Shell would apply. And this is an interesting one because it probably impacts other companies here who buy businesses. And I'm looking at Rashid here, because if you move into a country where your standards are higher than where you are, then you have to do something about it. You either drop your standards, which is most unlikely, or you try and push that country's standards up. And I think that's a discussion I think that you're hinting at there that we can probably help with it. Rashid, have you had that issue before with NatGas in terms of standards in a different country and your standards?
Thank you for bringing this. I think in my country, in Oman, if we compare to Shell standard, now we have two companies. My colleague Juliana, the CEO of our entity in Malaysia, is a Shell standard reference. They are very high in Malaysia. It's our company, we have the same. But in Oman, we are here. But internally, we stay to be at the level of our colleagues in Malaysia. It's always about money, people, organization, which increase your cost indirectly. But we are number one in safety in Oman, this is for sure. Even the regulatory body take us as a reference now, and we have engaged discussion with them how we can bring the others. Others, it's small, medium company. They don't have money, they don't have willingness, they don't have knowledge like you sharing. It's why I think your role as organization, and we are doing it with this event in November in Masrat, is to bring everybody around the same table. And I think Mark, he said this morning that competitor and so in safety, there is no competition. There is only death at the end if you don't do it properly. Then this is, I think it's your role, and I think you are doing it. Thank you again for bringing, sharing, and training. Sometimes it's only sharing the information, or in a certain way that must be easy to understand, easy to apply, not complicated. Otherwise, even the regulatory body will be scared. Oh, it's complicated. I need minister. I need. Then they stop, and with change of some people, this momentum collapse. It's about momentum, willingness, energy, and a little bit costs. But return of investment is big. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm interested when Cinch put up a slide before coffee about putting a training, almost a training package together that has got all the trainer's notes. So you've got the whole pack. It's almost like train the trainer, because we don't have the resources, we don't have the budget to go around 140 countries that Jack's going to talk about in a minute. We just don't have that bandwidth, but we certainly have the ability to put training packages together that we could issue out. And I think Esther Buscher talked at the last meeting about the what and the how. Well, you know, the what is all the material that we've got, that we have it right now. The how is how we get it out there. And maybe we have to tweak that a little bit to do that properly. One last word on this guide. There is a chapter in the guide, and this is probably why there's 130 odd references to safety. There's a chapter in the guide on the branded cylinder recirculation model, which is what we are endorsing for new markets. So this is something that's in there, chapter 6, I think it is. So if you want access to this, you can just Google it. It's on our website and you can download it. It's not members only. It's something that we want everybody to have. Yeah, Aurelio.
David, I think it's very important that in this good industry practice, we must emphasize the importance of the good regulatory framework and to enhancing all countries that the brand cylinder recirculation model is the winning model in the world. It's the best way to ensure long-term investments, to ensure customer safety. I think it's very important, because many times in Latin America, there are a lot of ideas, crazy ideas or theoretical ideas about LPG cylinders just to make the cheapest prices. But the brand cylinder model is the best way in the world that it proves by itself in any place. I think it's very important to emphasize this point, this guide.
Yep, thanks. So chapter 6, you can pull it out on its own, and it's the A to Z of the branded cylinder recirculation model in there. Now, I think that's all the slides I had on that. This is just a summary. You'll get this material after this meeting, and they're the links to the 3 guides that we've updated. Well, the first 2 we've updated. The bottom one on new markets is a brand new guide, but the other 2 have been updated. So these are just 3 of, I think, around 20 that we've got in our library on our website. So I encourage you to go and dive in there and have a look at those. So now I want to ask Jack Greenwood to come up. Jack, if you would please, to give us a brief summary on the latest statistics. So this is the 2025 Global Statistical Review, which covers the data from 2024. So there's a bit of a public health warning here. It's not today's data, it's last year's.
Yes, thank you, David. So yes, I'm going to be talking about the statistical review here. So as David said, this is for 2024. If you're expecting anything involving tariffs, Trump, or any of those elements, sorry, you'll have to attend our bigger session later in the week, the power play that we are doing on Wednesday. But yeah, so just quick introduction. I'm Jack Greenwood. I'm a senior analyst at Argus Media, and I'm a member of the Youth Council, and you will probably all best know me because I'm the project lead for the statistical review. So I want to start this with a little bit of self-indulgence, if you'll excuse me, but I want to talk about why data matters, and especially why data now matters the most it's ever done. So if you look back at this chart here, you can see kind of the pre-COVID numbers here, how previously what this chart shows here is essentially what LPG prices have done relative to crude oil prices. And so you can see pre-COVID, we're looking at the markets where ultimately LPG is just crude oil with like 20% variation on top of that. It's really a very straightforward market pricing wise. And then we start to see that break down. You can see we had a brief break during COVID, that little plateau there. But beyond that, you can see after COVID, it's really deteriorated very, very rapidly. And we've got now a market where about 3% of LPG's price is based on crude. That's probably a statistical anomaly just for 2024. But realistically speaking, we are looking at a market where only a fraction of the price is down to that crude oil, and there's a huge amount of variation on top of that. And ultimately, this is because we are now looking at a market that is just totally different from what we had a decade ago. Really, what we've seen is the market has done two things. One, consumption has centralized around the Asia Pacific region, where we have now a lot of areas in the world that consume and use LPG. But if you look at where all the excess LPG in the world flows, it all flows into that Asian market. And that Asian market is really what's setting that price, what the consumers down there are buying. And then everybody else simply takes whatever price nets back from that location. The other aspect as well is that production has decentralized. It's gone from a market where it was the Middle East that was the major exporter of the world, and then other smaller exporters that would largely only matter to the markets near to them. And now we've got North America, really the US, and then a bit of Canada on top of that. But it's mostly the US that has suddenly changed that, and we've got this massive amounts of exports coming out of the continent and going across the entire world as well. So we've got a wildly different looking market than we had next. And because of these things, we've got such a good market. That now means we need this data more than we have ever needed it before. Because ultimately, when things change, when there's uncertainty, you need to rely on what there is that's objective, both in terms of your advocacy and in terms of your business strategy. And data is the best way of doing that. So I can't just tell you how important data is and not then give you the data. Again, this is only a whistle-stop tour. I'll go into more detail later in the week. Or, of course, you can read the statistical review yourself. I'm sure you've got more copies of it. If you don't, please get in touch and we'll be more than happy to send you one. You can see here, so big highlights of this past year. Production, highest LPG production we have ever had. Consumption, also the highest LPG consumption we have ever had. Increasing both by about 10 million tonnes on the year before. We've also got bigger highlights in the regional space as well. Latin America, to my surprise, if I'm being honest, had its biggest year ever in terms of consumption, beating out the previous high of 2014. In Europe, we had the highest levels of demand since COVID. We've also seen the largest auto-gas fleets that we've ever had. Shout out Angelique and her auto-gas day later in the week. And I should also point out as well, considering we were in South Africa last year, that Dangote refinery began operation last year. And we saw Nigeria's LPG reduction from its refining sector quadruple as a result of that, the highest level it has ever been. There we go. Okay, so, but of course, when we talk about demand, there is the big elephant in the room that we have to talk about, and that is the Chinese chemical market. About 75% of the demand increase we saw this year came from Chinese chemicals alone. And realistically, that is because of these plants here you see on the right-hand chart here. That's PDH capacity that we've seen grow, PDH standing for propane dehydrogenation units, that has grown massively. These are plants that essentially take in propane and produce propylene as well, and they consume massive amounts of it. If the Chinese PDH plants all operated at 100% capacity throughout an entire year, they would consume more LPG than the entirety of Latin America, but across all sectors. And that isn't even the whole of Chinese petrochemical. That's just half of it. So when we have this huge build-up of capacity, that is where all this extra demand has come from. And it's crowded out of these other sectors, which have really struggled to see growth in 2024 because every spare drop of LPG has been going into this market. And all this extra capacity and all this extra production that has gone into this market, it's pretty much all coming from North America. So you can see that the North American market, in terms of the raw production increase, it's been less dominant in terms of production than the Chinese chemical market has. But also when you look at it in terms of exports that have been going out, especially when you look at transcontinental exports, North America has utterly dominated. You can see here, like the other big increase in production you saw was from China, LPG that never left the country because it was staying in China to feed the chemical market. And aside from China, there hasn't been that much of an increase in LPG production around the world, aside from North America as well. We also saw a pretty hefty reduction in production from Russia. That's the result of sanctions, both from earlier in 2022 and 2023, but it now started to bite harder, but also because Russia can no longer export its product into the European market. So it's cutting back on production there as well. And I also want to highlight Iraq here. Those of you who buy LPG out of the Middle East, or those of you who operate in the Middle East itself, will know that Iraq has not been a particularly big exporter of product, but really ever. And this is starting to change. It's really ramping up its exports. It started to export semi-refrigerated cargoes and will probably export refrigerated cargoes within the next few years. And that's part of a growing trend around the Middle East where we haven't seen it really emerge this year. You look at the projects in the pipeline, you look at Qatari, the North Field expansions, you look at the Jafurah field in Saudi Arabia, you look at the various projects around the whole region. Middle East is going to be a big player in the coming years as well. So what are the changes that we've had to the statistical review itself? So the first thing we've done is we've split up the previous domestic consumption sector. That's gone. May it rest in peace. I miss it a lot. But it's now been split into residential and commercial because ultimately these are two very, very different markets. They look the same in terms of a lot of data figures that we get, both from governments and from agencies that we use as sources, but realistically they're very different. They're driven by fundamentally different factors. Residential is largely driven by population, whereas commercial is driven much more by economic factors like GDP growth. And so having that clarity really helps you to understand the markets you are operating in. Another big addition, as David highlighted in this introduction, is how many more countries we've added. We've added 24 in just Africa alone, and then a few more in other continents as well. In fact, it actually was a bit difficult when we got to production time because we didn't have enough space on the page to fit all these African countries. We had to add an extra one so that the data would fit. And there's more to come as well. What you're looking at here is not available right yet. It's a sneak preview. These are all subject to change, but over the next few months, probably towards the end of the year, maybe start next year, we will be rolling out these maps that will be available online for WRGA members to access. So you can see here, this right here is the underlying data that we use to produce the statistical review. You'll be able to see all sectoral demands on a country-by-country basis, both for the current year, but also previous years as well, making that data that previously was only available in summary form we're going to make that all publicly available as well. And we have an infrastructure map as well. So this is covering off all our infrastructure databases that, again, we're making public. Some of this data is going to be available for the first time we're ever making it. You'll be able to see both where the data, where these infrastructure is located, but also details on it, what location is it in, who owns it, what is the capacity. And so, yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Jack, thanks ever so much for that summary. So there you are. That's part of our membership proposition, a complimentary copy of the statistics. And so there's two messages here. Members get members, please. And also, if you want to join the safety group, then come and see me afterwards and we'll include you on the invitation list. Now, without further ado, I want to invite Alison up here because we're running behind time. We started late. We're going to finish a bit late, but it's only lunch, isn't it?
Hi, everybody. This is such a well attended member engagement meeting, so thank you for coming. Come back after lunch, though, for the communication session. Slight change on the timing. We're going to finish this at 12:30, guys. So we're going to be 15 minutes late, and then we'll have lunch from 1:30, from 12:30 to 1:30, and then we'll be back in here. So, our diversity programme, we have two initiatives. We have Women in LPG and the Youth Council, and we're going to spend a little bit of time on each. The Women in LPG Global Network, a decade. We launched 10 years ago in Singapore. We're so proud of where we've got to, and James said some amazing words this morning, but it's to thanks everyone around here who either has a national chapter or who supports us or who's an ambassador. It's a great initiative, and there's more to it than that, which Nikki will talk about. Pam Indiges, who many of you know, has been our chair for the last 3 years. She's the managing director of Oryx in South Africa. She sends apologies. She can't be with us. She was our Woman of the Year in 2019, and we change all our chairs for all the 4 working groups at the end of the year. So this will be the end of Pam's tenure. Her vision was to increase our national chapters and also increase the people, and we've really sort of risen and taken off. So it's a public thank you to Pam and all her work. The good news, there's always a silver lining, is that we will have a new chair starting in January next year. And this quite amazing young lady is in the audience here today. So I'd like to announce Esther Boucher is going to be Women in LPG Global Chair for the next 3 years. So Pat, would you like to take your floors? We'll hear from Esther on the knowledge exchange on Thursday lunchtime. So please join us. It's not just for women, it's for men as well. You'll be very, very welcome. That said, I'd like to hand over, excuse me, to Nikki, who is the co-founder of Women in LPG, a sort of a dear friend, and she's worked so hard. She works behind the scenes a lot, but without Nikki's help, we wouldn't be where we were today. Nikki, over to you.
Thank you very much, Alison. Good afternoon. I won't. It's only brief, so we'll just go through a few slides, and I'll just give you a little bit more detail around a couple of points. So, this was 2025, so our final year with Pam, as Alison's just said. We try to launch a chapter a year. But this year we've launched in Cameroon in July, sorry. And we're also going to be launching in Oman in November. We were actually going to do a third one, which is in Ireland. We were approached by DCC and DCC and Calagas to launch in Ireland, but we've had to push that into the very early part of 2026 because we just ran out of time. So that's going to be really good. So we're off the bullet already for 2026. We have more than almost 4,000 members globally. That's just the global network. Every national chapter has its own network as well. So we are reaching into an awful lot of places. We hold 2 national coordinator workshops, which are done by telephone, or Zoom, sorry, it was done by Zoom. And we had one in April of this year, and we had our second one in September. And they're a chance for the national chapters to talk to each other, to understand what sort of initiatives each one is running, and hopefully take on some of their successes and then roll them out in different countries. One of the things I just wanted to I will go into a little bit of detail on, is our role model strategy. Role models are a way of us being able to demonstrate to our external stakeholders, but also our internal stakeholders, that there is no barrier to being a woman in our industry. So we showcase very, very inspirational, successful women on our focus page on the WLGA website. This is even more important when you're trying to look at the future, and we're trying to future-proof the industry and get more young people to come in. For the last few years, the trend with university graduates is 54% of graduates are female, 46% are male. So if we don't all start looking at the whole talent pool, we're going to miss out going forward. And if you have role models, women role models, and they're looking into us, they can see that a woman can be as successful as a man. So it's an industry that they want to work in. So it's an extremely important shot for us. The other thing is ambassadors, and this is where I'm reaching out to you. We need companies to show themselves as ambassadors for diversity, because if the high level individuals in our industry are supporting diversity, that means it goes all the way down the line. So if you do want to be an ambassador, there's no commitment apart from giving us your name and a statement, but that would be really useful. When 8 years ago, there were 2 dots. We've now got 15 national chapters. And going forward, we're hoping at the end of the 3 years, the next 3 years, we will be up into the 20s. So these are very important because they allow us to reach further into businesses at a local level. And every national chapter will have a different focus. And what we are finding increasingly is that the national chapters are being used as a platform to talk to schools and universities, and also into the public, about LPG, its benefits, and how to use the product safely. But increasingly as well in the African countries, because of its neutrality, WinLPG is being used as the vehicle to really support the clean cooking initiatives, which obviously have life benefits for women and children. This is obviously going forward. I've mentioned this before, but there's some ladies from our Cameroon chapter, so which unfortunately Bessem couldn't be with us today. So, and then the last and most important thing is our awards. We have 3 awards. The 2025 ones have already been judged and the winners have been selected. And the Young Woman of the Year and the Field Groundbreaker will be announced at tonight's member dinner. And then the Woman of the Year award will be announced at the gala dinner on Wednesday. But if you have people in your industry, in your businesses that you think deserve to be included in our awards, then please tell them to do the application. You can find it on the WLGA website. You can download it through the focus page. And on 2026 will be launched about May. That's it from me. I hope it was quick enough. Sorry. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And another important thing about women in LPG, it's neutral. We're often in countries where we respect the fact that we may have competing organisations who are all bringing women to these meetings, but it's a neutral and safe space. And I think that's really, really important to add. Finally, the Youth Council. The Youth Council was launched about 6 years ago. It's a distinct benefit of Industry Council membership. Every Industry Council member is invited to nominate a young man and a young woman to join this body. So we say young as 35, so I don't know why we picked that. I know in the audience there's quite a few Youth Council members, and it's great that you are supporting your team. So will everyone who's on the Youth Council stand up, please, and give them a round of applause? Applause. I think it's fantastic that you're all here. And with that said, I'm going to hand over to Cole and Brooke, who are the co-chairs, and they're going to just talk you through their most recent activities. Over to you guys.
Hi, thank you. So yeah, a little bit about our structure. Me and Cole are the two co-chairs, and then we are all divided between 3 different pillars, and that's talent management, safety, and new gen communications. Within these pillars, there's 2 co-captains that are responsible for leading the teams and the projects, but we all work together throughout the year. And then currently we have about 53 members with about a 50-50 split between young women and men. So that is great. And we have 31 IC companies represented, but we're always looking to add some new members.
Thank you. So as Brooke mentioned, always looking to add new members, and I want to just take a moment on behalf of both of us and the entire Youth Council to thank the WLGA for giving us this opportunity, but also the leaders in this room who elect us to be part of the Youth Council and give us the opportunity to attend events like this. The Youth Council, as Brooke mentioned, we have 3 areas of focus, but it's our intention to provide our perspective on a number of issues and also add value to the WLGA. So we work on a project every year and then use LG Week as an opportunity to kind of launch it and show it off to all of you guys. And this year, the focus of our project was AI. And obviously it's a big topic right now. Very impressive technology that's coming out, but it's still very early in its development. And I think a lot of us are still in the early ages of understanding its capabilities. So what we came up with is a comprehensive, about 50 to 60 page booklet that focuses on the 3 pillars that the Youth Council operates under, which is new gen communication, safety, and talent management. And in this book, it's a step-by-step guide on how to implement AI into different aspects of your business, different ways to utilize it, do's and don'ts, a lot of information that any of us can go in there and look at and understand how to start using it in part of our business right away. So there's some very impressive case studies. We spent a lot of time working on this, and we hope that you guys find it valuable. We're going to have a QR code that'll be at our Youth Council booth, as well as right here, that you guys can go and check out the booklet. Like as I mentioned, a lot of hard work went into it. So we hope you guys, find it valuable. But we again, we appreciate the opportunity and hope you guys like the project. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Allison.
Thanks, guys. And also, they've done a really good job on this. And also, there's a youth forum on Wednesday. I can't quite remember the time, but please support them. They're going to have a lot of discussion around AI, and it would be great to see lots of people in the audience there. It's an important part of what we're doing. David, would you like me to hand back to Blaise, or would you like to say a few words?
Thanks, Alison. Well, you said we're going to finish at past, so we've got a couple of minutes. So are there any questions at all on anything that you've heard in the last hour you want clarification on, or? No? I see Tucker's there. We talked about the incident in Mexico.
But I would have a comment for the Youth Council.
You're going to comment for the
Yeah, I have to say that, Alison, I think you made a big step forward, huge improvement compared to where we stood a year ago. Because maybe you remember I criticized when we presented the last time that the 3 pillars were all headed by young male colleagues, and now I see it's much more balanced, and I think that's the right way to go forward because our industry is still dominated by men, and so that's the right thing to do. Congratulations on that.
If I'm not mistaken, there's about 10 industry council members who don't have representatives on this.
Don't have anyone.
Anywhere at all in their workforce. We know how to fix that. Push it up to 40.
Thank you.
Okay, so another plea there for industry council members who don't have a representative on this youth council to find somebody somewhere under 35. There must be somebody. Okay, so if there are no other questions, then I will pass the microphone to Blaise and thank him once again for all the work he's done over the last, how many years have you been Gold Chair? Over six years. So thank you, Blaise, for everything you've done. And I'm going to ask you to just close this session, then we go for lunch.
Thank you, David. It is honestly very bad to see that our industry continues to record serious accidents with several fatalities. Of course, accident is an impossible event, but very often investigations show that most of them could have been avoided if rules and procedures have been respected. So let's continue to put safety on the top of our priorities. I would like to say big thank you to David, Alison, and Nikki for the excellent work. Much has been done, but much still to do. Thank you to all of you. Thank you for the working group. I learned a lot from all of you, and I would like to thank you very much for that. Thank you and all the best.